Follow me to the magic.
Hey folks, Dan the Produce Man here with my good pal Nathan Pumplin from Norfolk Healthy Produce in Yolo County, California, and we've got something absolutely special for you. I'm very excited about this. Nathan, what have you got for us here?
Well, Dan, it's a pleasure welcoming you here to our greenhouse. What we have today is the famous purple tomato. We talked about it on your podcast last year. We showed some pictures. We didn't have fruit to eat. Now we finally got it.
Ooh.
So before we prattle on too much, we should probably have a taste.
Oh, well, hey, okay, look, we're gonna start right off with the taste, folks. You got a knife?
Got a knife?
The produce guys carry
The
knives.
produce. Let me let the produce guy do it.
Oh.
The tip is you want to cut long ways. That's where you get that really nice cross section.
Stem to blossom.
This is
not
a
spherical.
high antioxidant purple tomato. You've probably seen some of these before in the store with a little bit purple on the skin. This has purple on the skin, and as Dan is about to reveal for us,
I want you to take one half and I'll take one half.
it is packed full of anthocyanins, antioxidants throughout the entire flesh.
Oh.
These are the nutrients that are in blueberries that give them their pigment. And Dan, how does it taste?
I gotta try it first. Let's see. Wow. That has, whoa, a real summer tomato flavor. Holy smoke. Holy purple. My goodness. Now, I've seen purple tomatoes in the stores, over the years. But when you cut them, they're not as purple as the one that we just saw. They're usually red with a little bit of a hue of purple.
Yep.
So, what makes this tomato so purple?
Wow, Dan, that's a great question. The thing that makes this so purple is, and you can see it very nicely right here, the fruit forms green like any other tomato, but through its ripening process, instead of turning red or yellow, the whole thing turns purple. Our tomatoes develop the purple color internally as part of their development process.
Wow.
This is instead of the other varieties you've seen in the store that do it in response to light. So they need a lot of light to make a little bit of the purple color, and it only goes in the skin. It's only
So there's a
skin
little
deep.
light inside of each one of these tomatoes?
I love that view. There's light inside from the genetics.
Ooh.
What you get is a tomato that tastes great, has extra nutrients, these extra antioxidants, and it's something that was enabled through our understanding of biology. So our founder, Professor Kathy Martin, who developed this tomato, learned what is it that allows fruits to make these nutrients? Why do blueberries make them? Why do tomatoes make them? And she found that there's an on switch that turns on the pathway. It's natural in all tomatoes, but usually it's not turned on in the fruit.
Ah, okay.
She found a way to use a plant-based approach using two genes from an edible flower, snapdragons. So these flowers are great. These are the ones that you can squeeze and the mouth opens. I love these as a kid.
Yeah, sure, you get those at all produce companies, food service people, chefs love those edible flowers.
Exactly. What Kathy found out is you can take genes, two genes from this flower, put it into a tomato, and that turns on the natural pathway. So we've used this bioengineering approach, but it's a nature-based solution, a plant-based solution, and it's something that we find really thrills consumers. So I joke a little bit, but there's three groups that we're really interested in their feedback. One is chefs, one is produce buyers, produce experts like yourself, Dan, and the third is French people. So for those of you who know, you want to find discriminating tastes? What we've been thrilled to see over the last few months is our greenhouse has come into production and we've been able to share the fruits with lots of different people. Everybody loves the tomatoes. They love the fresh tomatoes. They're great just like we ate them. They're great with a little pinch of salt. They're great in a caprese salad. We've made purple tomato salsa, which has been probably the biggest fan favorite so far.
Absolutely.
We've made purple tomato juice. We've used that to make purple tomato Bloody Marys. There's a lot that we can do with this, and we're just thrilled to be able to get the fruit in front of people, hear their feedback, what they like, and start to share more broadly.
So the Snapdragon genes are like a jump start, like when you put the cables up to your car and jump start it.
That's a perfect analogy. That's exactly right. Yep.
But what I do want to say, because I can hear the questions now, I can see the comments on the video. oh my God, you put genes inside of a tomato, frankenweed, and it's going to change the earth and everything. But when it comes to this is a very safe, innocent thing. None of the fruit that we eat today is its original form that it was thousands, even hundreds of years ago. It is all completely changed to make it bigger and better and taste flavorful and more nutrients. Like you said, this has so many anthocyanins, so you don't just get the lycopene, you get so many other things as well, like the antioxidants and so forth. So I think this is a very exciting produce item, that's for sure. I think we're going to make a lot of headway with this.
I think so too. Well, let me pick up on a few of those thoughts. First of all, is this product safe? Yes. And we've been engaged in the regulatory process in the US for over 3 years. We've been working with the United States Department of Agriculture to determine, is this likely to cause any risk to agricultural production? Could this be a big pest? Could this become a superweed? And the answer is, based on lots and lots of science, no, that's not a concern. We've been engaged with the Food and Drug Administration about, does this present any concerns different from a normal tomato? Are there any toxic concerns, allergenicity concerns, this type of thing? And what's very clear from the studies and the analysis is no. At the end of the day, this is a tomato like any other tomato. Tomatoes have, and now I'm going to get a little bit nerdy scientist on you.
Go for it, I love it.
It's the problem of having a PhD. Tomatoes have about 30,000 genes. All tomatoes do. And there's a tremendous amount of biodiversity in tomatoes. And we believe very strongly in the value of biodiversity, in the value of the natural world. Oftentimes I get questions about, if you add genes from one plant to another plant, isn't that dangerous for biodiversity in the world? And the answer is no. In fact, we've increased the biodiversity with this one little change that we've made. But these tomatoes are not going to go out in the world and create super weeds.
Just like pluots, apriums, and plumcots have not, and we enjoy those every summer.
I love that comparison, Dan, and that's completely right. As Dan mentioned, we've been modifying the foods that we eat through conventional plant breeding for thousands of years. This is the foundation of the societies that we live in right now. The ability to produce food, the ability to avoid starvation. Food security is so important and it's top of mind for a lot of people these days. But also to get the health and nutrition that we need to thrive as people. And of course, to have varieties of plants that farmers can grow without losing everything to diseases, for instance.
Sure.
So we view ourselves as really one small group of people in a long, long history of farming and agriculture tradition. We're carrying the torch as so many other people are. There's lots of people developing heirloom varieties for organic production. This is fantastic. There's other people using biotechnology to improve the way that tomatoes function in slight little ways. This, we believe, is very valuable. What we really need is a mix of all of these approaches. We need a diverse village of people growing different types of foods in different ways. I think that's what's really exciting. And if you compare to the first genetically modified organism, the plant that was sold, that was a tomato. It was developed just down the road in Davis, California by Calgene. It was called the Flavor Saver tomato.
Ah, yes.
Many people really loved it. It didn't catch on with market success. Following the Flavor Saver tomato, there were a lot of concerns raised from a lot of directions about GMOs in food.
Well, that's because there was news articles about putting fish genes in tomatoes and pesticide within the plant to kill off any type of pests. But that's not what this is.
That's not what this is. So these tomatoes have no pesticides in them. We don't spray Roundup on them. They're
No
really
animal
a tomato,
product.
No animal product, no genes from fish in this tomato. It is a tomato really like any other tomato. For those who are scientifically minded, you can check out our website and learn more. There's been a lot of peer-reviewed scientific studies published on this tomato going back more than 15 years ago. So this is not some crazy new harebrained idea from a scientist that's very risky. It actually fits in a long tradition of scientific research, but also food safety research. What we have now is decades of evidence of data to look on about the safety, about the impacts of these types of improvements that are made to plants.
Certainly.
And there's nothing there that's concerning. At the same time, we always want to be really clear. It's important that we have a good regulatory system. where there are government regulatory bodies that are looking at these new products and determining, are they as safe as a conventional variety? Or is there anything here that might be concerning? That process is very important to ensure that new products that come out to market are safe, are proven, and consumers can go to the store and they can make their selections with full confidence. And again, we think we live in a really exciting age now for food. We have a vibrant organic sector, which is strong and growing. We also have new types of products like ours, like other produce products enabled with biotechnology that are just getting out to market. And this gives more choices for more consumers. We're never going to please everyone. To get to your point on the comment thread, we see from our consumer research, there's always about 10 or 20% of consumers who say, I don't ever want to eat GMOs, and that's fine. They have many, many options on the market.
Absolutely.
What we know is there's about 80% of consumers who would love a product like this, that tastes great, that has extra nutrition, that has a beauty that you don't get any other way but by this bioengineering. They would love our product. And we're excited now to have the ability to bring this out to market, to have it in retail stores, to have it in restaurants, because what I know is, just like we did, when I share the tomato with people, when they taste the tomato, they think, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And some people are produce experts like yourself, Dan. Some people think, I really don't like GMOs. I don't like biotechnology. There's a lot about that direction that I'm concerned with. Some of them never want to try it. Some of them say, your tomato, this is different. I've never heard of a story like this. I didn't know that biotechnology could make something that's not a monoculture, that's not injected with pesticides, and this is what ours is. And for many of those people, they are absolutely thrilled and they want more.
I wonder what the percentage of people is who don't want to eat GMOs but are eating GMOs and don't know it, because there are items like papayas. And these aren't GMO, but there's 5 new strawberry varieties that were just developed for the commercial market, specific to each growing region. Strawberry varieties change like every 10 years. They have to keep developing newer varieties that have flavor, that can handle the shipping, that have everything that we need in the strawberry. So if you're eating strawberries quite a bit, those are always changing. Bananas. What's the country's most popular fruit? Bananas. Okay. Do you love your bananas? We know that, and they're working diligently on creating new varieties of bananas, because the Cavendish, just like the Gros Michel before it, is being ravaged by some sort of fusarium disease in the soil that is killing off the plants and is going to kill off the crop. You've been hearing it in the news, you've been seeing it. So those are being developed as well. So not all GMO is bad. Sure, I don't want to eat pesticides, and I really don't want to eat a tomato that has fish genes in it. This is an edible flower, a Snapdragon edible flower crossed with a tomato, giving it this lush, gorgeous, beautiful purple color inside. The flavor is outstanding. This is revolutionary. Imagine chefs putting this on the plate in your restaurants. Oh, it's going to be a mind blower. I see so much potential for this tomato.
Well, and Dan, I let me just jump in and say, you can imagine the chefs. We don't have to imagine, because we have these conversations day in and day out with chefs who try it and they think, oh my gosh, here's the first recipe I want to make, here's the next. We've seen already a few really creative, really beautiful, very delicious dishes, and we're just excited to see what other people create as we get this out into the community. And I want to make 2 comments on what you said. The diseases that are threatening banana production, that are all the time threatening strawberry production, these are very real, and there's all the time new diseases coming. So the analogy is, every year there's new strains of flu that can make us sick. Then COVID comes along and makes us sick. Plant diseases are no different. There's all the time new diseases arising, and we need to find new ways to protect our food security and to protect growers being able to grow and produce. Traditional breeding has been the main workhorse of all of this, and it still is. The other main workhorse has been pesticides. And there's a lot of regulations now that are removing lots of pesticides from being used. Most people would agree this is a very positive development, but we still need to produce our food. So what steps into the void? There's different management practices, there's regenerative farming. This can contribute a lot, right? Integrative pest management, this is very important. But growing varieties of plants that are resistant to the fusarium, to the botrytis, to the pathogens that make food unsellable, the best to do is have it built into the seed. And this is a natural solution. Plants are naturally resistant to certain pests. We can make resistance by breeding, but we can also add it in through the types of biotechnology approaches that we've used to make the purple tomato. One other comment I want to make. When GMOs were first released into the market in the 90s, and the Flavor Saver tomato came out, and then there was GMO corn, and there was GMO soy, and there were other GMOs, most of the consumers didn't know about it. And when they found out about it, they found out, I've been eating this for years, but nobody asked me. Nobody asked me, do you want to buy a GMO or an organic? It just came out. And a lot of people felt very concerned about that, like they were guinea pigs in a laboratory experiment.
Sure.
We're very sympathetic to this. That was very problematic. We're at a much different time now than we were in the 90s, and there's a labeling rule that went into effect last year. So when you're at your grocery store and you're looking at products, especially in packaged goods, what you'll see on the label is contains a bioengineered ingredient. People now can look at the labels, they know if there's GMO or bioengineered ingredients inside or not, and this goes for produce as well. So now we're at a point where we want to be very transparent. We want people to know how we made this, because we're very proud, quite frankly, and we have a long history of peer-reviewed science that backs up this product. For those who don't want it, they can see the purple flesh tomato and say, thanks, but no thanks. But for those who would like this product, it's there for them, and we're very happy to make it available and look forward to sharing more.
Awesome. So Nathan, it's June. When were all these planted? And were they planted from seed?
Dan, that's a great question. So we planted seeds of these purple tomato varieties back in December. We transplanted into this greenhouse in the middle of January. So here we are 6 months later. These are what tomato folks call indeterminate. What that means is they keep growing, they keep growing, they keep growing, they keep growing. They're a vine. So they grow 3 leaves, and then they grow what we call a truss. Then they go 3 more leaves, then they grow a truss. You'll see at the top here, there's these really beautiful yellow flowers. Those flowers then develop into fruit. That fruit starts out green, just like a normal tomato. And then what we get to see is, through the development process, instead of turning red, they turn this beautiful purple color.
Now, my tomato plants in my backyard will, right around September, they'll start the leaves will get yellow, they'll start to fall off, the stems will get a little woody, and by October, they're really funky looking, but they're still producing fruit. Then by November, they're pretty much shot until the next year.
You got it.
Is that what happens in here too?
So that doesn't happen here because we can control the environment. We can restrict a lot of the pests from outside of the greenhouse. And of course, we're able to control the temperature. So before we had the fans running, keeping the greenhouse cool. And we do have a little bit of heat that we can add when it gets really cold in the fall. Of course, we also have lights here, so we can add a little bit of supplemental light. What that does is broaden the season where we can have great tasting tomatoes. We all love the heirloom tomatoes from our backyard in that peak season of sort of 2 months in the summertime, as you mentioned.
Mid-July, man, that's the way to go, all the way through September.
What we would love to have, to the extent that we can, is summer fresh, heirloom type produce all year round.
Sure.
Of course, we can't do it year round, but we can stretch the seasons in different ways. And this is what a lot of the consumers are counting on. They want to go to their local grocery store. They want to go to the produce section. They want to see beautiful, perfect produce day in and day out.
So will these plants ever turn yellow and die off? Or, it's a tomato, so that it's bound to do that, right? And you'll have to start all over again in December, is that correct?
That's correct, Dan. So these tomatoes keep growing up and up and up. What you'll see here is very long vines that are horizontal, and then they go up. The longer the vines get, the harder the plant has to work, because the water and the nutrients are coming into the roots, and they've got to get pulled all the way along the vine up to the top of the plant. The longer the vine gets, the harder it gets. So what's very typical in commercial production is to grow plants like these for almost an entire year.
Okay.
And then once a year, you change out the plants for new plants. So that's what we'll be doing here. We won't go quite through the entire year, but we're 6 months in right now. We're going to push it out to 8-9 months with these individual plants.
That's amazing for a tomato plant to last that long. And do you have some sort of, when you do pull these plants finally, do you have some sort of goodbye ceremony to the plants? You know, maybe burning them and doing a little dance around them or anything, or is it just pretty much into the compost bin?
You know, Dan, that's a great question. This is our first yield trial of this scope, and we haven't thought about the appropriate ceremony for the end of the season. But I think that's a really great idea. And I've seen lots and lots of different types of harvest ceremonies in different cultures, in India, in Switzerland, all throughout the world. And we're a new company, we're a new product. This would be a great tradition for us to start. Certainly what we need to do is, when these plants are done, we're going to give this whole greenhouse a really deep clean, make sure that if there are any plant diseases here, they're all removed. So when we put the next crop of plants in, everything is in ship shape, it's totally clean, and these plants will have the most comfortable environment to grow in. Of course, one thing that's really important in these types of productions is integrated pest management, right? Rather than decades ago where a lot of people would just spray pesticides.
Spray the diazinon, man.
There you go. That's not how we run things here, right? We run things here with, first of all, organic certified inputs, and we minimize everything we have to do. That's by maintaining basic protocols where we keep the plant safe. You cleaned your feet when you came in, you cleaned your hands when you came in. We have parasitic insects that are here to eat some of the bad insects that come out, to eat some of the pathogens that might come in here.
Excellent.
And we do everything we can to keep the plant safe and healthy to eat as well.
Will these be able to be labeled organic if organically grown and crossbred with the flower?
So it's a great question, Dan. The answer is no. Organic standards, the legal definition, prohibits any use of genetically modified crops. So what that means is, for those of your viewers who say, I'm not quite there yet, I don't want to eat a GMO, if you buy something that's labeled organic, it has to be non-GMO. What we can do, of course, is grow them using regenerative practices, using organic practices. We would never do the label, but as a scientist, as someone working in agriculture, I believe that the best path forward is to have the best of all the worlds. Take the best of organic production, also take the best that we can with breeding, sprinkle in a little biotechnology in the areas where it really matters. Not everything, but there's certain products, certain crops we can make better through biotechnology. But we really want to take the best that humanity has come up with over thousands of years, blend them together. And that's something that we've always believed in the company. We want to respect the tradition. We want to include as much of the traditional knowledge as we can. At the same time, we want to bring in a little bit of innovation, a little bit of science. And again, this is safe and established. This is not some crazy harebrained thing that we just came up with. Very well established, very deeply reviewed by our regulatory bodies. We can sprinkle on the best of both worlds, we believe.
So I would say they're organically grown.
I love it.
That's great. One more thing. What's going on with these other colors?
I'm glad you asked, Dan. What we're doing is comparing our purple tomato to yellow tomatoes, to red tomatoes, to different varieties. One, because we really do believe in biodiversity. We're not saying everyone should only eat purple tomatoes and stop eating all the other colors. We think we should eat the rainbow because there's great nutrients that you get in different colored foods. We are also comparing the yield of our purple tomato against other commercial varieties. So what we want to know, and what many people who grow tomatoes want to know, is how does your purple tomato yield? What we're finding, to our great thrill, is the yield of our purple tomatoes. It's as good or better than these commercial varieties of reds and yellow tomatoes.
Excellent.
This is an important advance, and it's a great sign to the breeders who have worked on this project to get varieties that not only taste fantastic, look beautiful, have nutrition, but they also yield extremely well. This will help us get out to market, and hopefully the folks watching your video and listening to your podcast will have the opportunity to sample them at their local independent grocery store or wherever they choose to shop as soon as possible.
Beautiful. We're in this lovely greenhouse. This is where everything's being tested, and it's absolutely gorgeous in here. And boy, let me tell you, is it humid in here or what? But hey, that's what they love, right? Even the leaves on some of these purple tomato plants are purple themselves are absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. Nathan, congratulations on this. I think it's wonderful. I'd love to see this in the stores, folks. I know your comments are going to come. I see them all the time. But again, it's an edible flower crossed with a tomato. Just like a pluot is a plum crossed with an apricot. And a nectar plum is a nectarine crossed with a plum. So, folks, a lot of this stuff exists. You've got Canadas and honeylopes. Those are crossed with each other as well. This is a tomato crossed with an edible snapdragon flower. So, Nathan, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us today on Getting Fresh with Dan the Produce Man. And until next time, this is Dan the Produce Man reminding you that it's always best when you get it purple and fresh.